Hey everybody, Christmas came early this year. SORA, which is a text-to-video generator that was previewed to us since February, has now finally been released. Santa Claus and his elves have been working hard to give us these amazing presents, but only for the nice ones that pay for the subscription. How do they stay so calm while they're literally changing the world? So by now, you've likely seen other walkthrough and first reaction videos of SORA, but what I want to do with you today is walk through their release together and share my observations and thoughts with you through my lens as a machine learning engineer, through my lens as a computer vision engineer, so that you can get an idea of how a machine learning engineer thinks and qualitatively evaluates these AI computer vision models. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Tam and I'm a machine learning engineer based in Silicon Valley, and I specialize in computer vision models, including algorithms that I've developed for the Apple Vision Pro and robotic arms, enabling them to not only see, but to also understand what they're seeing. So I'm really excited that OpenAI is broadening more from LLM and text domains to image and video domains. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, SORA's landing page, which has completely replaced their February version as well. And this is a screen recording so that we can control the pacing of our material. So the first scene is this Christmas tree, such high detail, looks really realistic, really vibrant with the colors too. Zooming in, we also shift from highly detailed twigs to a highly detailed earth ornament. Next example is these mushroom heads, which actually remind me of this haircut. Childhood trauma aside, the way that SORA is able to merge this human body with a mushroom head is really indicative of the quality of the latent space. It's showing that the latent space is really rich and really representative, and that you can do operations on the latent space. Take a human body, minus the human head, add in a mushroom as the head. You see how these operations are being stacked on top of each other to generate this new element here? And worth mentioning as well is that these operations on the latent space are being applied to not only just a singular object, but to multiple objects as well, as you can see in the scene here. Single object latent representation manipulation has been a research field for a long time. So the fact that SORA is able to do it now for multiple objects is a big deal. All right, next example with jellyfish floating through the forest as the light is shining on them, and this affects the glimmer of the translucency of the jellyfish. So the scene and the object, they're interplaying, they're interconnected. This is great to see. And also, as the jellyfish is translucent, you can see the background of the trees make an appearance through the translucency as well. So SORA is not only understanding occlusion, but it's understanding the blending of such occlusion as well. Now for the downsides, if you take a closer look at the tentacles of the jellyfish, you could see that they're weaving in with one another, but they're not physically consistent. Sometimes they're there and then they disappear, they get shorter, they get longer. And this is a common problem that we've seen before with human hands. This problem with the hands got solved with more training compute, more training data of hands, bigger models. I suspect that if you apply the same training compute to these jellyfish tentacles, you could also solve this visual problem. Now, whether it's worth allocating so much training compute to jellyfish tentacles is another matter. I hate to discriminate, but accuracy on jellyfish tentacles might not be the most critical thing. Moving on to some other examples. Let's take a look at this one here. This one's pretty nice because it's a mixture of dynamic elements and static elements, meaning the chair and the person sitting in it. Even as the water is crashing into the chair here, SORA is understanding that the chair is to remain static, to remain fixed and not be broken, or none of the bars here should be moving either. Modeling water is also no simple feat. That is a big problem in simulation as well. And it seems that they've been able to accomplish, once the water crashes into the object, it can have this ripple effect. And it also seems that SORA has properly learned smoke and the behavior of smoke, that the smoke just passes through the object and has no other impact. I also find it really cool that the bioluminescence sticks to the object, sticks to the person. It's able to position the bioluminescence instead of just having the bioluminescence everywhere in the water. All right. Let's go to another example. An alien in New York. There's a lot going on in the scene. There's taxis just driving in 5 different directions, while humans are also on the street too. So while the video is impressive, maybe it doesn't make the most sense. What does make sense though is even as the alien is walking and the taxi driver is occluding the alien still reemerges in completeness. So there's that temporal and physical consistency despite occlusion. All right, and since it's Christmas time, let's go to this Christmas market. Things are looking good. This is a little messed up though. Now we pan to this new shot where that previous shot has now gone into the background as this blurred depth background there. Notice the woman in pink here though. She's still present even as she fades into the background. So that is temporally consistent. That is really cool. Note though that the humans are of different dimensions and depth, where there's giants and midgets and they're just kind of blending with each other. You see the hands there, they're looking really good until they don't and they got a little confused there. All right, one more example. Let's go with puppies. This is really awesome because there's a lot of moving objects and they're all dynamic and there's more physical consistency now. If you remember back to that example of dogs just playing in the snow together and they just kind of all came out of the same ball, going from like 3 puppies to 7 puppies, and it doesn't quite make sense there. So yeah, all that to say, this is not perfect, but it's a huge improvement from where they were in February, and that can likely be attributed to more training data and more compute. All right, next up we go to the editing tools. First up we have Remix, where you can edit the elements in your video. So here we start out with some doors and a library scene. But then you can prompt to replace those doors with the new doors and keep the old scene. So again, that goes back to manipulations and operations in the latent space. In this prompt here, turn the library into a spaceship, I understand that to be minus the library scene and plus a spaceship scene. But as you can see, the doors to the scene have also changed. Now, while there are some things that we can control with the text prompt, there are probably some things going on within the network that are hidden to us. So for example, the neural network could have a layer that is hidden to us, and this layer could be checking for cohesiveness of the scene, making sure that the style and the lighting is consistent throughout the scene, and then making any further necessary changes. So overall, you can do your best to specify your desired changes with the text prompt, but in the end, the neural network, SORA, is the one that will still have the final say on the creative output. All right, next we go to recut, which is really awesome because you can feed it in an original shorter clip and then extend it either before or extend it after. This requires an understanding of the scene, an understanding of the camera movement, an understanding of the objects and the motions going on within the scene. So here we see, even as the clip is being extended, SORA is understanding that the scene is this neon coral reef and that the otter is playing with balls. One thing I'll point out is that the limbs of the otter could use a bit of improvement. And I'm not sure if the balls are intentionally supposed to be like magically turning from 2 to 3 to 4. All right, let's go to the next editing feature. We can skip storyboard, but loop here is pretty cool. So with the flower example, the object is looping from open to closed, open to closed. But for the fire video, that's an example of the camera motion looping, right? The camera is essentially turning around in a circle infinitely. Then we have the staircase where the object can essentially loop kind of infinitely, not really going from open to closed, but just looping infinitely. It really reminds me of this optical illusion in 2D of these stairs here that just go on forever and ever. All right, there's a wave. Next editing feature is blending. I think this one is super cool because now we're really working in the latent space. This blended video in the middle here wasn't created because these two videos were themselves blended together, but they were blended together in the latent space. Again, the latent space is a lower dimensional representation that is the prime place for these manipulations. So essentially this blended version here is just an interpolation of the two latent spaces from start to finish. So for example, if the latent space of this snowflake video was this blue vector here, and the latent space representation of these flowers was this yellow vector here, then if you interpolate these two to get a mix of blue and yellow in the interpolated vector, and you decode that back into a video, you could get this blended version here. All right, next we move on to the style presets. This is really cool because even as you select different styles, the objects are still consistent. We still have the woolly mammoth and the rhinoceros in each of these styles. So there's that object consistency. One thing though that is not consistent is that the style seems to be impacting the scenery, right? Here we have some grass and here we have some snow. So this again ties into the point that we were making previously here, where SORA has these final steps in its pipeline that are hidden from us to make sure that the style and the cohesiveness of the video is intact, and then making any other necessary adjustments. All right, with that, let's scroll back down and we get to pricing. Whether you want to pay $20 a month or $200 a month to get SORA. Well, now we see why OpenAI released their $200 tier, because generating videos is not cheap. The only thing that bothers me about this section is their graphics. Why did they not loop their graphics? You see how it cuts out like that? Why are they not using their own looping feature to make this more of a cohesive animation? Anywho, that seems to be the end of the landing page. I'll say this though. OpenAI seems to have intentionally left out their failure cases. That was not the case in February when they included their failure cases like this memorable one of the man running backwards on the treadmill. This indicates that SORA back then did not understand physics as well and the direction of motion, right? And also the relationship between these two objects, that the human should be facing the treadmill board instead of not. So it's a very intriguing reason as to why OpenAI decided to not showcase their failure cases this time. Do they think that they've perfected physics already, or? In any case, even if OpenAI doesn't want to admit their failure cases themselves, I'm sure the prompting sleuths of the internet will do their job and find these cases. And that's it. That's what OpenAI has gifted us with. Do you guys have access to it already, and have you started playing with it? And what do you think so far? Let me know in the comments, and I can't wait to read them. So to recap, today's video was a qualitative evaluation of SORA's outputs through my lens as a machine learning engineer. In my next video, I'll be doing a technical breakdown of SORA's architecture and its pipeline so that you can understand how it works underneath the hood. So make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on if that's something you're interested in. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.
On the third day of Shipmas, my true love openai gave to me. One text to video generator, 2 types of membership and infinite